Good day, everybody. It's Andrew here, and welcome back to my channel. There are huge updates today saying that President Biden and the White House is considering additional stimulus payments because the Omicron variant is getting so bad and could potentially put the economy in another recession. Now, this article is titled, "The Fed Chair Says Omicron is a Risk to the Economy." Could that mean more stimulus checks? So let's discuss the details, but before we jump into it, do me a quick favor, hit like, hit subscribe, and share this video with anyone who you think might find this helpful. I also have a second channel, so if you really want to support my work, subscribe to my second channel. The link to that is going to be in the comments of this video, and that channel is going to have some updates as well, but it's going to be mostly an entertainment channel, a community for seniors, where I'm going to be on camera, going live, playing bingo so you can play bingo with me. There's going to be a chat so you can chat with me back and forth, and kind of the whole community can chat as we play bingo, play casino games, play the lottery. So it's going to be a fun channel, and it should be launching in a couple of weeks. And I'm also going to be giving stimulus checks away on that channel just as a thank you for supporting my work. My plan is to give away at least one stimulus check per week at first, and hopefully even more depending on how big the channel gets. So please subscribe to that channel. The link to that is going to be in the comments. And the bigger it gets, the more stimulus checks I'll be giving away. So share that channel with your friends and family just to help grow, support my work, and get more stimulus checks out to the good people who follow my videos. So this article is titled, "The Fed Chair Says Omicron is a Risk to the Economy. Could that mean more stimulus checks?" This is something we've talked about for a while. Now, obviously, we had two stimulus checks in 2020. We had one stimulus check this year, and now we have Bernie Sanders trying to include a stimulus check for seniors in this current stimulus package. He wants it to be at least $1,000 given out in the form of a debit card to help seniors pay for medical expenses. But how it's been looking is, although he says it's for medical expenses, it'll be a debit card that'll be accepted anywhere where Visa is accepted. Now, with all of these talks going on, we've been saying, hey, what are the odds of actually getting stimulus? Well, it's hard to say, but what we do know is this is kind of a hard thing to say, because the worse the economy gets or the worse the pandemic gets, the more odds of getting more stimulus, right? And the last thing we want is for the pandemic to get worse. We don't want that. This is a crazy illness. People are passing away. Lives are being affected so bad economically and financially. But the truth is, with more news coming out that Omicron could potentially be a huge risk to the economy, a lot of experts are saying that Biden should be considering a fourth round of stimulus checks because this could potentially cause a lot of damage to the economy. Now, the thing is, we're still not sure. Scientists are looking at the data. They're trying to figure out, how contagious is this illness? How bad is it when it comes to causing really bad infection? And is it resistant to current vaccines? And we'll find out in a couple of weeks. We'll have a really good idea what the answers are to these questions. Now, if you look on your screen, it's a global map showing everywhere this variant has spread. Now, look, it started in South Africa on November 24th, and in just about a week, it's made it to the United States, Canada, South America, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, Australia, Japan, most of Europe, the Netherlands, Germany, Sweden. I mean, this strain is spreading quickly. So people are thinking this is a very highly contagious strain. So bad, in fact, that Germany has actually begun doing some lockdowns. Yeah, it's crazy, but this is another reason why the stock market is already tanking. People are worried about the effect that Omicron is going to have on the economy at large because some countries are already issuing lockdowns. Germany is essentially locking down anyone who's not vaccinated. And this is kind of crazy because if we tried doing this in the United States, oh my God, can you imagine if Biden tried to do a nationwide lockdown to anyone who's not vaccinated? It would basically cause a civil war because we're so divided between Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, those who live in big cities, those who live in country areas. It's like we have such a divide. But countries like Germany, they're a little more united, right? There, everyone's the same. People have similar values. It's not as much of a melting pot. So it's a little easier to kind of make these broad stroking rules. Whereas if we tried doing that here, I don't know, I feel like it would be a civil war. Let me know your thoughts, guys. If they basically quarantined people who are unvaccinated in this country, what do you think would happen? I honestly think, I can't even, like, I don't think it would cause an actual civil war, but it would be close. It would just be chaotic. But anyway, this is why people are worried about Omicron affecting the economy. They're saying, hey, if Germany is already locking down anyone who's not vaccinated, what's going to happen next? Are other countries going to do this? Is China going to do this? China is one of the strictest countries in the world when it comes to trying to control the pandemic. And that's one of the reasons why the supply chain issues have been so bad, because everything comes from China. And every time there's a case of the illness in the area of ports, they shut down their ports. So China stops shipping stuff out anytime there's a case of the illness in that job. It slows down shipping, and then it creates a supply shortage and increased prices across the globe. So people are worried this could happen in China, right? Are they locking down people in China? Are they going to lock down people across the globe, even in the United States potentially, which would really affect the economy terribly? But on the flip side, that's why there's this huge push for another round of stimulus checks. They're saying, hey, this Omicron variant is out. Things could potentially get really bad. Let's get ahead of this and give the people a fourth round of stimulus checks now. Now, even though we're going to have to wait a couple of weeks to see if the scientists determine whether or not this strain, this variant, will actually hurt the economy really badly, people are saying, let's get these checks out now just to get ahead of it, just in case. And if anything, we're just going to help people with inflation. But guys, before we go deeper into the fourth round of stimulus checks and exactly why people are pushing for it, let's watch this quick clip from CNN explaining what the heck is happening in Germany as people who are unvaccinated are essentially being locked down. Like, they can't go to concerts. They can't go basically anywhere except for grocery stores and pharmacies. It's completely insane. So let's take a look. Watch this clip. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And then we're going to go further into why people are pushing for a fourth round of stimulus checks and what we expect to happen next.
Well, Becky, I think one of the things that you've just said is exactly what the German government feels, and Angela Merkel and her designated successor said as well. They are losing patience with people who so far have refused or have not gotten vaccinated yet. And so therefore, the lockdown measures that were announced today, those tougher restrictions, they essentially count only for unvaccinated people. And one of the things that's being sort of talked about here in German media and in German society is that this is essentially a lockdown for the unvaccinated. Now, unvaccinated are essentially being locked out of all businesses except for the most essential ones, like, for instance, supermarkets and pharmacies as well. But you're also, for instance, talking about recreational indoor sports facilities, indoor clubs, and things of that nature as well. Also, on top of that, the Germans are saying that above a certain infection rate, things like discos and bars will also be shut down in the areas where those high infection rates exist. The German government is saying, this is Angela Merkel and her designated successor. We, of course, have a new incoming government here in the next couple of days. They are saying they want more people to get vaccinated. Also put forward a really ambitious plan as well, because one of the ways that they want to come to terms with this latest massive wave of infections is more vaccinations and more booster shots. And they say they want to administer up to 30 million shots, that's both boosters and first vaccinations, before the end of the year. And finally, Becky, and this is really something very important and certainly a big change in tone among German politicians, both Angela Merkel and her successor were saying that they are open and in favor of mandatory vaccinations. Now, of course, a touchy subject here in this country. They say they want the German government to draft a law. They want the ethics committee of the German parliament to then talk about it and give recommendations. And there could be a vote and mandatory vaccinations here in this country come February. So we're certainly seeing a big change in tone.
Wow. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, folks. I mean, people essentially being placed in quarantine if they haven't been vaccinated in Germany. Let me know your thoughts. I could just only imagine what would happen in this country if President Biden tried to do that. I mean, it would be chaotic just because we're so divided between Democrats and Republicans, right? I feel like Democrats would probably, for the most part, be okay with it, but Republicans would be scorched earth. It would be completely insane. But in any case, this is another reason why people are saying we need a fourth round of stimulus checks. Now, there's a lot of articles out there talking about fourth stimulus checks. Why do we need them? What's behind the push for a fourth round of stimulus checks? Well, there are a lot of things at play. Let's quickly go through this article. The IRS has issued more than 169 million stimulus check payments, adding up to about $3,200 if you received the max payment. Now, there's a huge push lately to get a fourth round of stimulus checks because this new variant is emerging. It could potentially tank the economy. And at the same time, the U.S. government added less jobs than anticipated. In November, they thought we would add about 500,000 jobs. They only added about 200,000. Now, winter is coming, and generally, this pandemic gets worse in the winter. If you can believe it or not, in January, we're going to be entering our third year of this pandemic. Completely insane. And with that said, we have this new variant, which could make things worse. Some countries are actually doing lockdowns on people who are not vaccinated, which is going to hurt the economies even more. Of course, Jerome Powell said that inflation is now expected to last throughout the most of the year of 2022, and he admitted he was wrong. Jerome Powell from the Fed basically admitted he was wrong when he said inflation would be transitory. So, because of this, we have extremely high prices. Seniors are paying insane amounts for everything, for food, for gas, for rent, for bills, even the cost of energy for heating, electricity. Everything is skyrocketing. I mean, look at this chart that shows inflation. And if you can tell me that seniors don't need a fourth stimulus check, I want to hear your reasons why. I mean, this chart shows the inflation rate from 2017. It's usually between 1 and 2%, give or take. In 2020, it was less than 1% because of the pandemic. Everything shut down. There was no demand for anything, so prices plummeted. Now it's skyrocketed. This chart is insane. It's over 4% over the last year. So how can you tell me seniors don't need a fourth stimulus check? How can you tell me SSI and SSDI don't need a fourth round of stimulus checks? Guys, let me know in the comments if you agree. So with so much going on, there's so many factors that are pointing towards potentially getting a fourth round of stimulus check, not even counting the senior stimulus check that Bernie Sanders is pushing for, right? He's still trying to include that in the stimulus package, and we should have a lot of updates in the next couple of weeks as to whether or not that senior stimulus check in fact does get into the package. So please subscribe. I will keep you posted as things develop in regards to the direct stimulus checks for seniors. But beyond that, we have a broader push for a fourth round of checks for everybody because of the Omicron variant, because the amount of jobs being created is half of what they thought it would be, because we're heading into winter when the pandemic generally gets even worse. And in January, we'll be starting our third year in this pandemic, and there is no end in sight, folks. I mean, this is probably going to last for at least a few more years. So how can we not give people another round of stimulus checks? So with that said, folks, President Biden just held a press conference talking about the fact that jobs in November were really, really bad, and the economy created less than half of what they thought it would. Not a good sign heading into winter, especially when usually during the holiday season, we create the most jobs out of the entire year as retail hires a lot of people to try and take care of the demand at stores before the holiday sales begin. So pretty bad news overall for the economy, but good news when it comes to potentially getting more stimulus checks. So in this clip, President Biden is going to talk about the November jobs report and the implications he thinks that has going forward. So let's take a look, see what President Biden had to say. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you on the next video.
Before I start, I'd like to report that later today I'll be signing a bill funding the government operations for the next few months. Funding the government isn't a great achievement. It's a bare minimum of what we need to get done. But in these times, a bipartisan cooperation is worth recognition. So I want to thank Senators Schumer and McConnell and Speaker Pelosi for getting this done. And I want to thank a substantial bipartisan vote in the Senate for sending this bill to my desk today to avoid disruptions of government operations. And I want to urge Congress to use the time this bill provides to work toward a bipartisan agreement on a full-year funding bill that makes the needed investments in our economy and our people, from public health to education to national security. Now, for today's news. Every year, December brings the joys of the holiday season and gives us an opportunity to reflect on the year gone by and look ahead and begin to imagine the new year to come. This year, we can reflect on an extraordinary bit of progress. Our economy is markedly stronger than it was a year ago, and today, the incredible news that our unemployment rate has fallen to 4.2%. At this point in the year, we're looking at the sharpest one-year decline in unemployment ever. Simply put, America is back to work, and our jobs recovery is going very strong. Today's historic drop in unemployment rate includes dramatic improvements for workers who have often seen higher wages and higher levels of unemployment. They are receiving higher wages. And the rate of Black and Hispanic unemployment is also dropping sharply. But that's not just jobs that are up. Wages are up. especially for hardworking Americans, often ignored in the past and past recoveries. Workers in transportation and warehouses have seen their wages go up approximately 10% this year. Workers in hotels and restaurants have seen their wages go up 13% this year. And thanks to the American Rescue Plan, we've delivered significant tax cuts to families raising children. Tax cuts and raising wages for middle-class families mean that Americans, on average, have more in their pockets today than they did each month since we've been in office, than they did last year after accounting for inflation. Let me repeat that. Even after accounting for rising prices, the typical American family has more money in their pockets than they did last year. In fact, we're the only leading economy in the world where household income and the economy as a whole are stronger than they were before the pandemic. Applications for new small businesses are up 30% compared to before the pandemic. Thanks to the American Rescue Plan, we're cutting child poverty in America by more than 40%, and millions of children who spent last Christmas in poverty will not bear that burden this holiday season. Today's news means that unemployment rate has now fallen by more than 2 percentage points since I took office. That's the fastest decline in a single year on record, and it's about 3 times faster than any other president in their first year in office. The number of people claiming unemployment has fallen from 18 million when I took office to 2 million this week, another record drop. We've also learned today that in November, 235,000 jobs were created in the private sector. And when they went back and recalibrated, they found the last 2 months, they found that job growth over the prior 2 months, September and October, actually created 82,000 more jobs than had previously been reported, which means that we've averaged nearly 400,000 new jobs a month over the last 3 months, a solid pace. All told, in the first 10 full months of my administration, the economy has created 6 million jobs, a record for a new president. This is a significant improvement from when I took office in January, a sign that we're on the right track. Because of the extraordinary strides we've made, we can look forward to a brighter, happier new year ahead, in my view. But I also know that despite this progress, families are anxious. They're anxious about COVID. They're anxious about the cost of living, the economy more broadly. They're still uncertain. I want you to know I hear you. It's not enough to know that we're making progress. You need to see it and feel it in your own lives, around the kitchen table, in your checkbooks. And that's why every day my team and I are working to deliver consistent, determined, focused action to overcome the challenges we still face. Now, chief among those challenges is COVID-19. Yesterday, I laid out key actions we're going to take this winter to fight this virus, to protect one another, to protect our economy and our economic recovery. They include, number one, expanding our nationwide booster campaign with more outreach, more appointments, and more hours. I was thrilled to see that yesterday we had more vaccine shots administered than any day in the past 6 months. Number two, we're launching hundreds of new family vaccination clinics to make it easier for children, parents, the whole family to get vaccinated in one place, and new policies to keep children in school instead of quarantining them at home when someone in the class comes down with COVID, if they do. Thirdly, making free at-home tests more available than ever before by having them covered by our private health insurance plans. The availability of community health centers and other sites for the uninsured will be the alternative as well. So if you have insurance, it will cover these tests. And if you don't have insurance, we have facilities you can attend and get these tests.